Hi everyone, it is a pleasure and a great honor to be presenting on such a prestigious platform amongst all you learned academics of architecture, media, politics and society. The title of my research presentation is Interdisciplinary Teaching Approaches in Art and Design Institutions. Before I delve deeper into the presentation, I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Fatima Siddiqi. I am currently a lecturer at the Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture, Karachi, Pakistan. I graduated from the Indus Valley with a bachelor's degree in design and further pursued an MSc Strategic Innovation Management degree from University of Sussex, UK. My expertise are design and art, which are the basic forms of creativity, and by using such creativity attributes, we come up with solutions that are pioneer pillars of sustainable innovation in the field of textile architecture and design thinking. In addition to that, I am also an animal lover, chef, and an avid reader. The agenda for my presentation is 8-pointer. I will begin with the abstract, followed by a brief introduction that will lead to some basic understanding of art and design and the overlaps between the two. Further on, I will focus on interdependency and interdisciplinarity of art and design teaching and learning in design institutions, concluding with some findings based upon research and reading. The abstract focuses on overlaps between the various creative disciplines taught in art and design institutions. Here we will be discussing not just the overlaps but also the contrasts between art and design. I will introduce art and its concept and further discuss in detail concepts of design. It is imperative to understand what the parallels and overlaps between art and design are, and once that is clearly established, I will discuss learning art and design through pedagogy approaches. Further, we will cohesively discuss the learning of interdisciplinarity practices at creative institutions. Before I discuss art and design, it is imperative to understand what creativity is in itself. In different researches, it has been widely accepted that creativity is a complex concept and it does not have one particular definition. Many scientists believe that Albert Einstein is a creative genius when he came up with the theory of relativity. At the same time, Leonardo da Vinci also came out as a creative genius when he created Mona Lisa, which to date hangs in the Louvre Museum situated in Paris. Another work of genius and creative expression can be seen in the world-famous monument, the Taj Mahal, situated in Agra, India. The work of Ustad Ahmad Lahori, built between the 17th century, stands in its true grandeur. I am certain most of you may have seen this beauty in the form of photographs, if not in person. It stands tall today amongst the 7 wonders of the world for times of the Mughal rule. Another creative worth mentioning is none other than Gianni Versace for his exemplary creative fashion sense that brought about innovation in menswear alongside being the pioneer to the era of rock and roll aesthetic and the neo-punk vibe in the fashion sector. Now if we analyze Einstein's theory of relativity to Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, to Ustad Ahmad Lahori's magnificent Taj Mahal, and last but not the least Versace's fashion breakthroughs, we find they all fall under the umbrella of creative wonder, despite being different. This proves creativity is a complex concept, and it would be an injustice to box it in a single definition. Even though creativity has an open-ended definition, we can still discuss the functions creativity serves. It serves ideas, imagination, and originality. A popular idea about creativity is the thinking process that is involved in the creation of novel ideas. However, it has been argued that creativity cannot limit itself to novel ideas only. It extends to the boundaries of value addition, also commonly known as innovation. Furthermore, the National Advisory Committee for Creative and Cultural Education defines creativity as imaginative activity fashioned so as to produce outcomes that are both original and of value. This elaborates that creativity is not limited to being a novel idea, but value addition is of equal importance. Any novel idea cannot be deemed creative if it has no use, and vice versa. Another dimension that falls under the definition of creativity is that of problem solving. Costello, in his paper titled Thinking Skills and Early Childhood Education, argues that creativity involves problem solving. For example, thinking outside the box. When it comes to defining art, there are multiple definitions. Now I can go on and on explaining each and every definition without reaching a resolve, because art has an open-ended definition. An example can be, if we take Van Gogh's painting The Starry Night for example, everyone present in this space today will have a different interpretation. For the purpose of this research, we can discuss 4 basic definitions of art that will help us understand the nature and purpose art serves. The first definition to discuss is the mimetic definition of art. Here we discuss that art is mimicry of reality that is taking place around us. Plato defines art as representational medium or mimetic. This word is Greek and it means imitation. This does not mean copying. Instead, it is representational. The second definition of art is presented by philosopher Kant, where he defines art as a form of communication. It is representation with purpose. When it comes to communication, through art, one has to understand that the message behind said communication is not constant for every receiver. Its message is purely dependent on the interpreter's perception, this making art open to interpretation. The third definition of art is considering it as significant form. This term was coined by an art critic, Cleve Bell. Here he describes that artwork can be expressive, even if largely or completely divorced from a recognizable reality. This describes that whenever line and color are combined in a particular way, certain relations are formed that stir our aesthetic emotions, for example, in surrealism. The fourth and final definition is self-expression, expressing inner thought through texture, color, space, form, and line. Design is a non-linear creative skill. Design is to plan and make decisions about something that is being built or created, or to create the plans, drawings, or models that show how something will be made. The word design is powerful. It makes one think of creative activity, product, architecture, and in simpler terms, closely examining the functionality of a particular product. Mankind began the design journey ever since he started inventing tools centuries ago, planning the events through the course of the day, rearranging interior spaces in our homes, redesigning the curriculum for more fluidity, and improving teaching methods all require design skills. To design can mean to envision, to build, to devise, or to style. Product development incorporates functional characteristics of a product, and design includes all of these. Engineers such as Leonardo da Vinci were coming up with more ideas than they could realize, and others such as Galileo were laying the foundations for analytical methods that students now learn. With the advent of technological advancement, society is becoming visually richer. As these are media-rich times, we are faced with bombardment of finely targeted niche products that grab our attention through the artistry of design disciplines. Talking about design meets art, for many scholars, design and art are similar, but not everyone shares this thought. There are contrasts between art and design. Art is raising a question, while design is solving a problem. Art is an open debate, while design a conclusive result. Art is writing and performing your own story. Design is being an actor and interpreting a script. Art is independent and only needs inner approval, while design is dependent on a collective acceptance. Art is the voice of the soul, while design is the mind looking for solutions. Art is an act of freedom, while design is an act of empathy.
Further we look at the similarities between art and design. We find that both art and design require a source of inspiration. Whether it's a designer or an artist, both need inspiration. An artist gets inspired from nature, while a designer gets inspired from creative solutions. Art and design both require creative cognition that could trigger creative thought processes. The use of scale for setting upper and lower bounds for the dimensions of elements used within a design or piece of artwork. Both art and design are constrained by dimensions, which makes them similar. Art and design are both dependent on color and the message it prevails. For a designer, the audience is broad as compared to an artist. Speaking of proportion, art and design use fixed space for creative exploration. Once we have developed an understanding of the importance of art and design and the overlaps between the both, we can discuss with greater ease the learning methods associated with teaching art and design. One of the most common creative process is learning by the studio model. This model is found to be general across art and design disciplines. The central concept of the studio model is the creative process with three clusters of emergent themes. The first is learning outcomes associated with the creative process. The second being classroom practices that guide students through the creative process. I will be discussing the models in greater depth a little further in the presentation. One has to understand that design, art, architecture are all creative disciplines, and one has to be creative in order to master them. The good news is that creativity can be taught. Many scholars, such as Paul Torrance, had this idea that creativity can be taught. There is conclusive research that informs programs with long-term initiatives have seen success in learning creativity. This gives an idea that creativity, although can be taught, but it is not a skill that can be mastered in a short time span. Design is the conception and realization of new things that have utility and value for the user. The major design disciplines are advertising, architecture, communication design, textile design, automotive design, and industrial design, and various more. A designer mostly works in such a way that allows one's design to evolve and proactively changes that occur while creating a design piece. If a design process model is a step-by-step method, one can follow and will not give the correct representation of learning design. Learning design is a non-linear process. Design scholars have found that the most recurring aspects of design learning begin with close observation, ideation, and finding and describing a problem, which goes through a process of testing through different mediums and only then can it be launched. There is limited research on art pedagogy, but mostly scholars suggested that it is a long process with a learning environment that encourages freedom of expression. Interdisciplinary learning is a teaching approach that combines the curricular objectives and methods from more than one discipline, focusing on a central theme, issue, problem, or work. At creative institutions, the focus on teaching and learning approaches is built such that students can transition from school to the workplace and the larger community. The curriculum is designed such that it meets the educational needs of a student. The focus of creative institutions should be to provide an integrated learning of liberal arts courses that focus on development and application of reading, writing, creativity, and design approaches along with employability skills. This would promote experiential learning and project-based learning. Today, various teaching methods are being implemented to promote interdisciplinary learning throughout various departments. Such learning methods consist of project-based learning, experiential learning, and inquiry-based instruction combined with student-led classrooms. Project-based learning is highly appreciated at creative institutions. Since it is clear that roots of project-based learning are centuries old, renowned philosopher John Dewey was the first one to coin the term project-based learning. He believed students will be more interested in learning if they are engaged and invested in meaningful exercises. Dewey's theory regarding project-based learning has been approved by many researchers in the field of academia. Keeping that in mind, institutions conduct most of their sessions based on project-based learning, where students are provided various real-life situations where they bring the best of multiple disciplines to solve a problem. Project-based learning helps students learn active construction, situated learning, social interaction, and develop cognition tools. Recycled approaches can be taught at design and creative institutions to inculcate creative learning. Innovation is the core of learning, and design today can be enhanced and developed through multidisciplinary approaches. Courses that have a 360-degree learning approach should be encouraged in view of working in an environment where real-life situations are presented to students, where they come up with innovative solutions with skills learned through multiple disciplines. Students should be given open-ended assignments where they have the liberty and freedom to think and create through solution-based learning with the use of limited resources. The implementation of sustainability approaches should be emphasized significantly through such course learning. This leads students to challenge their thinking capabilities, which results in multi-purpose utilitarian products that serve multifunctionality, such as jacket cum grocery bag, or backpack cum sleeping bag, or laundry basket cum planters, etc. Experiential learning, on the other hand, is a method where students learn by doing. It is a circular learning method which institutions implement in certain courses. Students are asked to take part in an activity where they experience by engaging in the learning activity. The next step is share, where students are asked to share what they have learnt and review how the activity was performed. Once students have experienced, shared and reviewed their learning, they are making connections of said learning with the practical world and relate those new skills to everyday life. Craft documentation is a course that can be taught in creative institutions, encouraging students to develop skills across multi-disciplines. This course encourages students to learn through experiential learning, where students engage in theoretical learning alongside practical learning. Students carry out research in the rural-urban sector to increase awareness. To develop skills to document the origin, status of the craft through written and visual mediums, for example, notes, videos, drawings, photography, film, and audio notes, they learn multiple skills linking and bridging the various disciplines. This can help them reflect on their research and come up with ways to implement their research in the real world. Institutions should inculcate inquiry-based learning combined with student-led classroom sessions, which means that students are at the helm of learning and innovation. This learning method combined with project-based learning and experiential learning can develop multiple cognitive skills to counter real-world problems. In today's world, it is imperative that students shouldn't just be laced with technical skills, but also impeccable social and communication skills that can help them tackle any challenges successfully. As Malcolm X states, education is our passport to our future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. From our discussion, we can conclude that interdisciplinary learning has advantageous effects on students and their capabilities. We started our discussion from art and design, where we discussed how creativity can be learnt if enough time and effort has been put in. We also discovered that art and design are more similar than different and how they are directly proportional to each other. This leads us to understand the importance of interdisciplinary learning and how it is imperative for institutions to make sure students go through this learning process for more profound outcomes. Thank you.